concept of the Caliphate in Islam is a central aspect of Islamic governance that combines both political and religious authority. Originating in the early years of Islam, the Caliphate emerged as a means of leadership following the death of the Prophet Muhammad, aiming to provide unity and direction for the Muslim community, the Ummah. The role of the Caliph was both temporal and spiritual, intertwining governance with religious leadership. Over time, the Caliphate evolved in various ways, adapting to different political and historical contexts, but its core principle, the embodiment of religious authority through political power, remained constant. Origins of the Caliphate. The Caliphate's roots can be traced back to the death of Prophet Muhammad in 632 CE. At his death, there was no clear successor, as the Prophet had not appointed one. This led to the election of Abu Bakr, a close companion of Muhammad and the first Caliph. His appointment marked the beginning of the Rashidun Caliphate, 632 to 661 CE, a period that is often considered the ideal model of Islamic governance. The Caliph was chosen by the consensus of the community, Shura, and was tasked with upholding the Sharia, Islamic law, preserving the unity of the Muslim community, and leading military campaigns when necessary. Abu Bakr's election was not without controversy, as some members of the community, particularly those from the clan of Ali, the Prophet's cousin and son-in-law, contested the decision. This division would later manifest in the division between Sunni and Shia Islam, which remains a significant schism in the Muslim world to this day. The Sunnis, who form the majority, regard the Caliph as a political leader chosen by the community, while the Shia believe that leadership should have passed through the family of the Prophet, specifically to Ali and his descendants. The role of the Caliph in Islamic governance. The Caliph's role was multifaceted, encompassing both spiritual and temporal authority. As the leader of the Muslim community, the Caliph was responsible for ensuring the proper implementation of Islamic law, which governed all aspects of life, from personal matters to state affairs. The Caliph was seen as the protector and defender of Islam, charged with safeguarding its teachings and expanding its influence. The Caliph was also responsible for maintaining the unity of the Ummah, particularly in the face of internal divisions and external threats. Under the Rashidun Caliphs, the Muslim Empire expanded rapidly, conquering large portions of the Byzantine and Sasanian empires. These conquests spread Islam and its governance to new lands, making the Caliphate a vast and diverse empire. Religiously, the Caliph was considered the representative of the Prophet on earth, though he was not seen as divinely inspired. Unlike the Prophet, the Caliph did not receive revelation, but he was expected to interpret and apply the teachings of Islam as found in the Quran and Hadith, sayings and actions of the Prophet. This role as the interpreter of Islamic law gave the Caliph immense religious authority, although the Caliph's decisions were subject to the advice of scholars and religious leaders known as ulama. The development of religious authority in the Caliphate. One of the key features of the Caliphate was the close relationship between political power and religious authority. This relationship was not always harmonious, and over time, the role of the Caliph evolved in response to changing political and social circumstances. During the early Caliphates, particularly under the Rashidun, religious and political authority were closely linked, and the Caliph sought to embody both roles. However, as the Caliphate expanded, it became increasingly difficult for one individual to maintain control over such a vast empire. This led to the rise of bureaucratic structures and the delegation of authority to regional governors and military commanders. While the Caliph retained overall authority, the practical power often rested with local rulers. The Abbasid Caliphate, 750 to 1258 CE, is often seen as a turning point in the development of the Caliphate and its relationship to religious authority. The Abbasids, who overthrew the Umayyad Caliphate in 750 CE, sought to emphasize their religious legitimacy by presenting themselves as the true heirs of the Prophet Muhammad. They claimed to be the representatives of the Prophet's family through their descent from his uncle, Abbas. The Abbasids also sought to align themselves with the religious scholars and the ulama, who played a key role in legitimizing their rule. Under the Abbasids, the Caliphate became more centralized, with the Caliph's religious role becoming increasingly symbolic. the caliph no longer had direct control over all aspects of governance, but served as a figurehead for the Islamic world. The ulama, a class of scholars trained in Islamic law and theology, began to take on a more prominent role in advising the caliph and interpreting the law. In this period, religious authority began to shift away from the caliph and became more associated with the ulama. The decline of the caliphate and its fragmentation. The decline of the Abbasid Caliphate in the 9th and 10th centuries, due to internal strife and external invasions, led to the fragmentation of the caliphate into multiple regional powers. While the caliph remained the nominal leader of the Muslim world, political power was now held by local rulers, such as the Fatimids in North Africa and the Seljuks in Anatolia. Despite this fragmentation, the caliphate retained its religious significance as the ultimate symbol of Islamic authority. During this period, the role of the caliph as a political leader diminished, while religious authority continued to be concentrated in the ulama and in various Sufi orders. The rise of the Ottoman Empire in the 15th century marked another turning point in the history of the caliphate. The Ottomans, who controlled much of the Islamic world, claimed the title of caliph for themselves and sought to restore the unity of the Muslim community under their rule. The Ottoman sultans positioned themselves as defenders of Islam and protectors of the holy cities of Mecca and Medina. The end of the caliphate. The formal end of the caliphate came in 1924, following the collapse of the Ottoman Empire after World War I. The Turkish Republic, under Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, abolished the caliphate as part of a series of secular reforms aimed at modernizing Turkey and distancing the state from religious authority. This marked the end of over a millennium of Islamic political leadership under the caliphate system. The abolition of the caliphate was met with widespread disappointment and resistance in the Muslim world. Many saw the caliphate as a symbol of unity and Islamic identity, and its dissolution was viewed as a blow to the Ummah. Since then, there have been calls from various groups, including Islamist movements, to restore the caliphate. These calls, however, have been met with differing opinions on how such a system would function in the modern world. The role of religious authority today. The question of religious authority in Islam remains a central issue in the absence of a caliphate. Today, Islamic governance is largely decentralized, with different countries having their own political systems and interpretations of Islamic law. While some countries, such as Saudi Arabia, still maintain a close relationship between the state and religion, others, like Turkey and Iran, have adopted secular or theocratic models. In the absence of a single caliph, religious authority in Islam is now dispersed among various institutions, including local religious leaders, scholars, and institutions like Al-Azhar University in Egypt. The role of the ulama remains significant as they continue to interpret Islamic law and provide religious guidance to the Muslim community. Furthermore, the idea of a caliphate continues to inspire some Islamic groups. The rise of groups like ISIS in the 21st century, which declared a caliphate in 2014, demonstrates the continued relevance of the concept in certain parts of the Muslim world. However, these groups' interpretation of the caliphate and their actions have been widely condemned by mainstream Islamic scholars and governments. The caliphate, as a system of Islamic governance, represents the ideal of combining political and religious authority. It emerged as a solution to the leadership vacuum after the death of Prophet Muhammad and has evolved over time, adapting to the political realities of different historical periods. While the caliphate no longer exists as a unified political entity, its legacy continues to shape the way Islam is practiced and governed around the world. The question of religious authority in Islam remains complex, and the caliphate's role as both a political and religious institution serves as a reminder of the deep connection between religion and governance in Islamic history.